Today on Sips Wood Chips, we're going to build this camera crane. One of the problems I've been having in making my videos was being able to set up my camera quickly and get shots from different directions. Here I have my camera crane set up to shoot from overhead. It's sitting on a small shelf behind my lathe and goes up, over, and then it shoots straight down. One of the other things I wanted to be able to do was very quickly and easily move the camera from above to the end so I could show you this particular angle. I couldn't do that with a simple tripod. To get those end shots, I can position my camera crane at the end of my lathe. The strong arm holds it steady, and the extra weights keep it from toppling over. So here's what you're going to need to build the crane. You're going to need a piece of 1x4 about 2 feet long, a piece of 2x6 about 9 inches long, a couple of old weights. This is a 5-pound weight, and I believe this one is like about a 3-pound weight. You're going to need 3 5/8 bolts about 2.5 inches long. You're going to need a few wood screws. These are like 1 5/8 long. 3 washers to fit the bolts. Here's a couple. I went ahead and cut the 1x4 into, I ripped it down the center, and I cut a piece 16 inches long and a piece 13 inches long, and the other 2 little pieces are the scrap that's left over. You're going to need a piece of 1-inch dowel rod and another little piece of 2x4 by about 5 inches long. You're also going to need a tripod. Here's a tripod I found at a second-hand store, and I paid $5 for it, and I wouldn't pay much more than that. You can also get small ones at Target for about $8 if you have to pay for new. I'm going to start by making the base. This is the weight I'm going to use, and I want to check, make sure the crown is up. That means that it arches slightly up, and I want these to be the bottom of the feet, and this is going to be my weight. My weight is actually larger than my base, so I'm going to make a preliminary mark where the center is going to be. And then I'm going to go ahead and measure this, and it is 5.5. So that means it'd be 2.5 plus a quarter. That'd be 2 3/4, and that's pretty close. And I also want it to be 2 3/4 from the end. So I want the center for my dowel to be here. Now I need to drill a 1-inch hole, and I'm going to drill the 1-inch hole probably only about a 1/2 inch deep, maybe 3/4. And if you don't have a 2x6, you can probably use a piece of 1x6 just as well. I have my drill press centered, and I'm going to drill a 1-inch hole about 3/4 of an inch deep. About a 1/2 inch. And that's about almost 3/4 of an inch. If you're using a 1x6, then drill only about a 1/2 inch deep. I'm just going to use yellow carpenter's glue to glue the dowel in there. While the dowel is drying, I'm going to go ahead and rip these down the center. So I'm going to rip them about 3/8 of an inch. all the way down on the bandsaw. So before I rip my my booms, I'm going to drill a 5/16 hole. It's about 3/4 of an inch from the end, maybe an inch from the end, and center. And these are going to be the pivots. Before I rip my boom arms, I'm going to go ahead and round over the corners, and I'll just do that right here. Okay, I'm ready to rip these arms. So here's my base. My dowel is dried, and here's how the weights will fit on it. One is probably enough by itself, but I got an extra one there anyway, so that'll give me about 8 pounds. The arms for my boom need to be attached right about in here, and I'm going to make a piece of wood go here, and then it's going to attach here, and that way I can move the boom around. It's not going to pivot, it's going to be solid. I need to cut a tenon for this to fit into, and then I'll attach it with glue and a couple of screws. I want to cut the tenon that's going to go in here, and there's a few things I know about it. One, I know it's going to be as deep as this is high, so I'll draw a line there. Okay. I know I want it in the center of this piece, so it's going to be 2 3/4 inches to the center. And I'll check it. 2 3/4 inches right there. And it's going to be about 3/4 of an inch deep. And 1.5 inches wide, which is the width of this. Okay. So that tenon's going to be right about there. I'll get my trusty rusty square, square this off. Okay. And then I'll cut that on the bandsaw. So if this is 1 inch deep, I know that the one on this end is also going to be 1 inch deep. And I know it's going to be this depth here. It's going to be notched like that, and actually it's going to run the full length of it. Okay. So on this one, I'm actually going to cut this part out here so that it will fit across like that. And this piece is really too long, so I'm going to cut it right about here. Okay, so I've cut that off, and so it should fit right in here with the tenon going down into this slot. I'm going to remove this square. I'm also going to trim this slightly, about like that. So that I can put a couple of screws coming down, and then I'll also put a screw from the front. I'll probably put about 2 screws on this side. So I'll go over to the bandsaw and cut that, and I'll also round this off just a little bit. So first I'm going to cut out the tenon, and I'm going to stay inside the lines so I'll get a snug fit. Really good. Next I'm going to cut out this one here. I went ahead and drilled a 5/16 hole here, and I drilled and countersunk the holes for my screws. So I'm ready to glue this in place. I'm going to put a little glue here, and here, because this is where the stress is going to be. So I'm going to set this in here, like that. Make sure it's in as far as possible. This is where I'll attach the boom. For the next stage, we're going to use a long bolt, and I had to make a spacer to go between these. The bolt goes from one side, and these are my two parts of my neck spoon. So one goes here, then I put a spacer. Okay, and I put a spacer. Then I put my other arm down here. It's going to come through here. I'm going to put a washer on there. And a wing nut. Okay, so it'll fit in here. I'll have a hole through it. This little platform will go across it, and then I'll attach my tripod on the top of this little piece here. The next part requires a disassembly of the tripod. What I want to do is remove just this part here, all from here up. I cut this part off the top of my tripod. That's the part that slips into this mount. And I was fortunate that this is tapped, and I can put a 1/4 inch bolt on there to attach it. I mixed up a few drops of epoxy, and these are the two pieces that I cut, the tenons. I'm going to go ahead and glue those together with epoxy. This is going to have a lot of stress on it, so I want to make sure it's good and strong. And I drilled a 1/4 inch hole. That's what I'll put my fastening bolt through. Okay. This is going to take about 5 minutes to set, but I'll probably let it set for about 10 or 15 minutes. I went ahead and put the mount on here with a 1/4 inch bolt. This is hardened. I'm going to round this off a little bit on the bandsaw and drill a hole and mount it so I can mount it on here. And so that'll go on there. I'm ready to attach the mount. So I'm going to pass the bolt through the hole, through there, on the other side. And I'm not going to have room for a washer, so I'm just going to use the wing nut for now. Maybe later it'll fit better. Okay, there's that. I'm going to tighten this down a little bit. Tighten this one a little bit. Tighten this other one slightly so they're snug. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the arm to the front. It makes it much easier to adjust it. That through there, and that also puts my knob on the right hand side too, which makes it easy. Now I'm ready to set my camera on there. So I'll put my second camera here. It's ready. Well, here's my new camera crane. It's all assembled. This one should be a little bit sturdier than my other one because it has it's double. It's got double supports all the way up and down. It should wobble a lot less. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, please click on like, and don't forget to subscribe.